over the years, as both a parent and a curious citizen, I've been afforded plenty of opportunities to watch children at play. When children play, it is quite common to see one child make an exclusive claim of friendship upon another child. A child makes a friend that she does not want to share with anyone else and then becomes envious if that new friend spends time with another child. You might hear the child who fears losing a special friend make bribes to keep exclusive rights to the friendship. It sounds something like this. You played with me this morning, you're going to play with me this afternoon, right? I'll let you play with my Barbies if you promise not to like anyone else. And if the child on the receiving end of the bribe does not promise an exclusive friendship, the child who feels threatened is likely to say, I hate you, you're not my BFF anymore. Such is the navigation amid the fields of childhood friendship. The dynamics of children's play I just described echoes the dynamics of the hometown crowd listening to Jesus preach in the synagogue in Nazareth. What in the world happened to make Jesus' hometown folk change their tune from amazement at the gracious words coming out of the mouth of Joseph's boy to outright rage at what he has said, which then leads them to try to drive him off the edge of the cliff in Nazareth? Well, what has made them angry is that Jesus reminds them that they do not have VIP access cards to his friendship. People reacted with rage because Jesus proclaimed an overwhelming, never-ending, reckless love of God that was wider and more generous than they were in Nazareth. Jesus reminded the hometown crowd that in the old days, Israel had no exclusive claim on the ministry of the prophets Elijah and Elisha either. There were many widows in Israel during the time of Elijah, yet Elijah made a beeline to help the widow over there in the foreign territory of Zarephath in Sidon, which is present-day Lebanon. Yes, and there were many destitute lepers in Israel during the time of Elisha, but God also saw to it that the boundaries of his care and concern extended all the way to Naaman the Syrian. Boo. In the midst of Jesus' listeners in Nazareth, it was offensive enough to be reminded that Elijah ministered to a poor Gentile widow in Sidon. It was intolerable to be oppressed by Roman occupation and then be reminded that Elisha healed a soldier of Syria, a country that oppressed Israel in an earlier time. By no means is Jesus denying his deep friendship and affection for his hometown folk. He is simply affirming in no uncertain terms that the scope of his friendship extends beyond their comfort zone to all nations and all peoples. Brothers and sisters, What is it that keeps us in the cul-de-sac of our exclusive, childish ways? Think about it this morning. What category of persons in your orbit is the most challenging for you to love? Think of a person even that's in your orbit every day or frequently that you find difficult to love. What is it that creates the nasty friendship circles of adolescent girls who maintain exclusion through secretive meanness? What is it that perpetuates the concern that if we receive too many new people into the fellowship of faith, it will threaten patterns that we hold dear to us? What is it that causes Christian congregations over time to conduct their mission in social isolation without reaching out to the changing demographics of the neighborhoods they are called to serve? Even ours has changed over several decades. What is it that causes us to clam up in guilty silence around our closest friends and family when they relish telling jokes that denigrate others? It is hard to accept that Christ's ways are not our childish ways. It is difficult for us to fathom the far reaches of God's mercy and friendship revealed in Joseph's boy from Nazareth. But let us be clear here this morning. I am neither denying nor depriving you today of the joy of knowing that Christ befriends you personally. That's a promise. That's a fact. If there is anything anyone needs to hear loudly and clearly today, it is the personal proclamation that Christ comes to you. Christ died for you. Christ arose for you. Christ draws near to you, offering forgiveness and new life now. Jesus never says to his friends and family in Nazareth, "You are no longer my concern." No, what Jesus does say is that no person, no village, no nation, no race, no tribe can lay exclusive claim to his friendship. As believers, we live continually with this paradox proclaimed every time we celebrate the Lord's Supper at Christ's command. And I invite you this morning and each Sunday morning to think about these words. When the pastor raises the chalice, he or she uplifts this dynamic, paradoxical truth in the words of institution. This cup is the new covenant in my blood, shed for you and for all people, for the forgiveness of sin. For you and for all people. Christ comes as your BFF. Christ comes as BFF for all. The scope of Jesus' friendship is personal and inclusive, deep and wide, both to be claimed personally and shared communally. In response to this message, we could either rebel like Jesus' hometown folk, or we could recognize this agitating news as gospel, pushing us out of our narrow worlds as a glorious and beautiful thing. Yes, Jesus' insistence on a wider mission, offended his own people, his insistence may offend us as well. But offense also means